and welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the world, Doing Too Much. I am John D, and this is my wife, Do. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, you're so crazy.
I made it through maybe one episode without saying that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm very thoughtful today. I'm filled with thoughts. I guess a different way to look at it. I am so excited about the direction we're moving into because of, just our conversations. I just think, like, everybody say when you keep sharpening swords, at some point it's going to cut through and it's going to be recognized. And I'm like, dang, did you see that? And I'm excited for that because I feel like a lot of the chaos in the world is due to miscommunication. And I think we all on the same team, but we just don't know what it looked like. So I think through the course of time we're gonna get there. So I'm excited about that. That's how I feel. That's where all my thoughts were coming from.
Okay.
Yeah. So question.
Answer.
I have growing up, as we've gotten, I guess we were out of our core group of friends, we were the OGs that got married first. So looking at your friends get married over the course of years, and then your friends that don't get married. But I want you to think about when we first got married and when you saw older people who were single, thinking now when you see those older people single, not the same ones, but just in the same, because we're older now.
Okay.
So what were you thinking when you saw, did you even go into that? Because when I thought about it, just kind of give you an idea where I was going with it. It was nothing what I thought today. It was more so, they got time. They're just waiting for whatever they're waiting for. Mm-hmm. So I was more considerate to whatever reasons it possibly, only the positive, like for you to be that age, why are you single? Mm-hmm. But now, I think about it totally different. So I'm just thinking about asking you, how did you view it then versus now?
I think I viewed it similar when we were younger. I was just thinking, we all, you still think you got time for everything. So, in which we do. But I was just like, we all start our paths at different parts all the time. Like, my best friend, career-wise, she, like, when I say she got herself solid, like, her lifestyle is very much so very set and solid. And her career, how she grew and expanded into different positions throughout her career, she definitely did that. I didn't nurse my career early on. I was just kind of floating around, but I was building my family. So it's almost like I had to trade off. So now she solidified herself career-wise, and now she's thinking about her family planning. And so when we were younger, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, everybody's path is everybody's path. I think even now, I don't think much beyond it. Like when you're like, why are you still single? I don't think about that as much when I think about my single friends. When I listen to them, they're, I'm always thinking of, I want them to find someone who can match their energy now, because I know that they've done all they could do to make themselves a solid person. They've done all they can do, because I feel like there's growing that you do with your partner and there's growing you do before it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, they've done all they could do to make themselves solid as an individual. So now they're looking to embark on that partnership. And so when I'm thinking about them, I'm not thinking like, why are you still single? As much as I'm thinking, I'm hoping that they find what they want. I'm a little afraid because I know what their goals were as to why they took the paths they took and they're not in relationships. But I think I get worried about guys because sometimes, we've talked and it's like why are the guys single? Because I know women have been, we're constantly, not constantly, but there are women who are always actively trying to get in a relationship. So if a woman at our age is single with no children, I look at them differently than a man who's single with no children. And I know that's not fair. It's almost like, how did you make it all the way out of your 20s and 30s and you didn't get anybody pregnant? Like, you were extremely responsible. That could be a high five. You're really responsible. Great job. But at the same time, it's like, how did you do that? Because I know the women were plentiful all along the continuum.
Yeah. And, so, I'm probably going to this is probably the one that's going to do it for us. When I look at it, I talk to some of my single friends and like, you haven't mastered that yet. Like, if you think about life and, do you want to look like a pimp when you like 80? And if that's your goal, then I understand. But I think at some point, the men that I know that they want to leave something because they're so awesome, and I think whatever insecurities one may have to not even allow their feelings to get hurt, that's a deep insecurity. And I feel like I want them to have this happiness that they can't ever get because they have convinced themselves that the road for them is the road for them. And I'm like, but it can always get better. But if you're going to look at life in a specific way, as you get older, you're going to look back and say, I wish I wasn't as stubborn. And I just hope that maybe some words can release some of the tension in some of these guys because they're great guys. And I feel like they're supposed to leave something so like we can talk about different parts of our life where we have something in common. And I think if I was single at this point in my life and I didn't have any kids, I'm doing some reflection where I did something wrong because, I know like I can't control my parents or whatnot, but if you look around and you see something, then you like, why don't I have that? Or if you're not thinking like that, you just cut from a different cloth. Because in my head, I know that I could tell my wife that I didn't want any kids. I wasn't going to get married, but that was as a child because in my head, like I was affected by how I grew up with my father, my mother. And when I got this, I didn't say, why didn't I listen to my father? It was like, I am so happy that this happened. Even like, I think about when I have these conversations with my friends in the past and, you can hear some of I wish I was single, but I'm like in my head, like none of them really wish that. They wish they had a couple nights that they could be single, but nobody wants to go back to that side. That is like so horrible.
That reminded me when Del Curry was getting divorced with his wife and somebody did this long tweet, like a series. It was like the reasons why he need to just not want to do that. Sir, you need to fix whatever you can. But because, the streets ain't the same streets they were in early 2000s. But I would say that I don't necessarily feel like there's something that somebody did wrong. I do feel like,
that's the way that I look at it.
I know.
Because I would look at like, so when I speak for other people, it's because in my head, this is the way that I would view it. And since I'm being like everybody else, these people look like me now.
Right. Well, I was just thinking to myself, there are a lot of parts to that. Like,
I agree.
So I have a friend, I remember talking to about the way they grew up. And even now, their relationships with their siblings, their parents, and even thinking about the trauma they may have taken on from these relationships all the way from their childhood up, and some things that they haven't been able to really get a grip on. And they're our age and they're single, they have no kids. And I remember a comment where they said, maybe I don't want to pass this on to someone else because I haven't figured this out yet. Look at my family. Maybe this isn't something that like you said, people want to leave something. Yeah, but at the same time, if you're still struggling with your past hurts, someone would say it's irresponsible to be broken, know you're broken, and you can't help.
See, I think
and
it's
bring somebody else into it.
No, so I think it's different levels to living life, and I'm not saying that people purposefully is like, you know what, I ain't figured this out, I'm gonna have a baby. That is some deep thinking right there. Like, I've never heard anybody say, the reason why I don't want to get married or have kids is because I haven't figured this part out. Because I'll tell you this, I think about, like you said, this our life is like a new marriage, right?
Yeah.
So this is like the last 3 years maybe. Mm-hmm. So just think about if I didn't start with anything with you, like I had to wait till I was 40. I wasted all my life. Like, to me, in my head, if I had just looking at what we have now versus just the last 3 years, like I wouldn't have all of that. Like I can tell you things where I in order to get to this point, I had to go through this. I have a better idea of having it. So to me, I feel like you just got to jump in there with somebody who's willing to go through that with you.
Well, I remember when I was younger and one of our friends, she used to be a marriage counselor to us a little bit in Atlanta. And she said, everybody has baggage. You just have to you got to find a person who's willing to unpack it with you.
Yeah.
True enough. But some people, they're not even there are a couple ways I look at this. Like, there are some people who have done all they could to handle their stuff, to heal, to get what they need. And when they go into something, they feel like the other person should have done that work too. They ain't trying to do that work.
No, I get it. But you know what? You can't decide what work somebody can't do.
Yeah. And I also think that there's some people that they themselves, they're taking inventory of their surroundings and they're like, this isn't what I want for someone. This isn't what I want for a child to come into, or this isn't what I want for, a partner. Because
do you really believe that?
I think that we need to not think that everybody is somewhere near us and everybody is this. When we speak of things like this, that they're this small group. I think everybody pulls trauma from their childhood.
No. I get that. This is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like when I reflect on life, like everybody really wants the same thing.
I don't think that everybody wants the same thing.
And no. When I say that, I'm talking about as broad as possible, though. Like
happiness.
Correct.
Right.
And
whatever that may be.
They would love for it to look like a family.
How?
Like, you can't.
All their experiences with families weren't good.
That's not saying that they didn't want it.
Okay.
My point is, they couldn't figure out anybody that they could say, this is the person that's going to get me over the hump.
Okay.
Like, in my head, I feel like I would like that. I don't know how to get over there. So I'm saying, like, how do you, like when people say, I'm comfortable with, you have to be comfortable with that when you say that, because it hurts to think about I can't play on that side of the street. So I'm just saying, what can we do to like help people to like, because when you were like talking about your best friend, you was like, this is what I was thinking. Like, like if you think about when I was 21 and I didn't get in any serious relationship, so you grew in everything else but this part, and now you got this idea of I still thinking like the 21. That's where I remember we were talking about as we get older, our requirements change. It's like that's a tough pill to swallow. But as you get older, you're like, what did I do wrong? So I'm like, I was willing to, you know, there was some things, some days you said, you know, you wish like that I would have revealed things to you sooner. And I'm like, I just didn't know how. So as we grow, like if you look back and you say, I told her, like, you can see what I'm saying. I didn't know how to say it.
Well, I don't think that we should go into this thinking that when I say the friends that I'm thinking about, they were developing their careers. It wasn't that they weren't in relationships.
Oh, no. I get it. But, you know, check this out.
Wait.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily think, like, I am the person that feels like no relationship was a waste of your time, because you learn what you want and what you don't want from every relationship. And you may have been in there too long. You might have got the message a long time ago and you could have left a long time ago. But I don't take that. Everybody has to move in the time that they want to. But what I'm saying is, before we move forward, to say that somebody is developing their career and the family part was not being developed, I'm saying they didn't get married and have kids. I'm not saying that they weren't in relationships. They didn't learn valuable lessons. They didn't.
Me neither. I'm not saying that either.
Okay.
I truly.
Because I don't think that it's necessarily about them doing something wrong. I think that they're getting that experience.
No, I'm saying experience for what? For the idea of still starting to this zero point.
I mean, because you learn a lot about yourself with the people you're with. Like, I learned about my need to heal people even when they hurt me. So the relationships that I had growing up, there were people who, they didn't go in with the intention of hurting me, but they were hurting me. And I felt like I needed to heal them. I needed to help. And I was sacrificing myself in order to do that. So I learned it because there were multiple times I could look and I could see it. Even with you and I, when we started talking, and I really started having feelings for you, but I knew where your stance was, like no kids, no marriage, no relationships. And in my head, kids, marriage, relationship. But I was determined that you had been hurt and traumatized through your childhood, and I was going to heal you.
You already knew that then?
Yeah, because it was early on, one of our really long conversations was about your mom. Mm-hmm. And I realized not only how you experienced your mom, but how your dad grieved, and then you took that and you said, never me. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I could love you and you would understand. I remember we were having a conversation and I said, even if you and I don't make it, I want you to be able to say, you know what it's like to be loved. Mm-hmm. And so even though I knew, I walked into it knowing that you were not on the same page as me relationship wise. You had no intentions. I believed. I
wasn't even in the field of knowing what any of that means anyway. But you out here, it's out here saving Captain Saver John.
Captain Saver. So I felt I felt like I loved you and I wanted you to have a good experience. And even though we weren't together, you were adamant that it wasn't going to be, you could not commit to a relationship, not after watching your dad. Then there were the other women that you were dating when I was in grad school, you were in Florida, all the other stuff. I was listening to this and it hurt me, but I loved you and I wanted you to have like all the stuff you were describing with the other people. To me, it was like superficial. They didn't know what they were doing either. And I was like, I'm going to heal him.
That is the craziest.
Yeah. So when I watch, I'm like, you look back and you're like, why were you even there? This was why were you with this guy and you saw this happening? You should have ran. That was my downfall. I was always in this idea, but I realized that
you got more reward through this way too.
Listen, shut up.
Anyway, think about it. If you look for real,
but this is my thing.
It's like, look at this, good hustle, John.
You constantly have to You constantly have to think to yourself, how much of the hurt did you really deserve to get to? Like, how much was really worth it? And when I think about growing up, I remember when my dad got sick. And my mom, every sensible piece of logic in her was like, I need to get these kids and go. But she said she couldn't leave him floating out there like that. She was like, what would he do? He wouldn't know what to do this. He wouldn't know, and yes, their finances were tied into that house, but what would he do? And so I realized that my mom was doing it to protect herself and to protect us. I wasn't. I only saw that she did it. I didn't think about why she was doing it. So I was just out here trying to heal people at my own expense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I definitely learned, looking at the patterns of how I approached relationships, I learned so much about myself. But just thinking, like, I had these 2 high school boyfriends, and then in college, I hung out with people, but then I met you like a year and a half after I broke up with the last boyfriend, and then it's been you ever since. So my stance of knowing the capabilities of relationships with men and what it can be like, it's
very limited.
It is. But I remember I was talking to my friend, and she was like, I've only dated one guy who didn't have childhood trauma. She was like, everybody else, I was somewhat healing them too, and she's a counselor. So it's natural in her to do it, and I think it draws people to her. But she's only had one person where she felt like when she was in the relationship with them, that wasn't a role she had to be. It was nice to know that it was possible.
That is crazy, because now I understand a lot more why it's difficult for women to. Well, when you focus, we was talking about, when you focus on life, like you may not want to play a game with somebody like that, like, because they may not know.
Yeah. And it's just like when you were talking and you were like, if you would have known the extent of my family, you should have been gone. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, probably.
For sure.
but sometimes you get in a relationship with someone and they don't even know that they're traumatized.
No, well, Day and Dallas will be aware in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're gonna recognize, hey, look, that's a game you may not want to play, because look, no matter what they're showing you right now, they're still trying to figure it out themselves.
Well, and some of them aren't, because they think this is just life.
No, that's what I thought it was, though.
Yeah. And so it's that's why I'm saying it's not a waste.
But I'm saying even if you say if it's life, it's still going to be trouble for them to wait for them to figure out that they can change it.
Yes, and then you have a partner who's going along hoping that they will, or they got their own trauma and they don't know that they're floating around too. So it's like you learn about yourself, you learn about what you like, what you don't like, who you are with certain types of people. You learn so much in these relationships. With me, I've had to learn through these limited numbers. Imagine someone who's dated over the course of growing up as a 20 and 30, because we're different 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-olds, you know?
For sure.
And so when you're dating people all in the course of your life and how you've evolved, and then, you're adding these other people to the mix, so many more lessons could be had.
But I think you got the gist of the lesson without, because I think that's similar with a lot. Now I can tell through some of my friends that they weren't loved. Like I can tell, like because it's just little things that people that get a little bit more love act and they just act different.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think people look at that. That's why I said, like, you can tell when somebody had some tough ass parents, you know, and you had some parents that they loved them a little different. So it's like when you start recognizing that in people, I think like I realized that the way Day is now, she's going to find a man that resembles the behaviors that I have now. Like she wouldn't tolerate the behaviors that I had before. So it's very difficult for anybody to look like that person to get in her way because she's like, he's gonna be a clown to her.
Yeah, I hope so.
I really believe that.
I'm out here and I'm gonna be the first one calling out clowns. I'm gonna be like, that one is.
But that's what I'm saying.
Bozo. But also just teaching them to look and listen. Like don't fall head over heels. We really can't help it sometimes, but be observant.
Yes.
Like, because what we see in our family members, what we see in their family members, how they interact with them. Do they interact with them? Do they not? Like, what are those relationships like? It tells you so much about what you may see. I remember when we were in college, you were like, you know, I always look at the girl's mom because that's going to tell me what she going to look like in the future.
That's how limited I was.
Well, the thing is you should have expanded that to everything. I need to look at how her mom acts with her dad. I need to look at
I didn't know that. You know, I didn't have that much. That's all
I need to see. Yeah, you was like, I just want to know
if I can deal with the way you're going to look later in life.
Yes, but
that's how little I was. I was a child. I was a baby.
He stood.
I was a premature baby.
You were a baby.
That's all I cared about.
With a credit card and a driver's license.
I know.
A baby being horrible. So it's condoms. It's like, I think that, I don't know. I guess I can't judge anybody's path and just assume that there's something wrong. I think that you, depending on where you are and who you're around, you may be missing the people that are best fit for you. And so when you get older, now you're a different person. So, you know, you find other people that you might just be missing them. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't necessarily think it's always that you're messing up. It might just be that you're not in the place you need to be. You're not, you know, like I remember. Well, go ahead.
No, I'm about to say, but if you knew the rules to the game, you wouldn't allow so much stuff to distract you.
But how many people know the rules to the game?
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. Well, for sure. But I'm saying just think about if people were more intentional, they wouldn't be distracted by the foolishness.
But it has to be, I think that's also, those are lessons learned, or they're taught by a generation that already knew to teach that lesson and ingrain it in someone. And then you got to have a little bit of that in your partner, or the openness to learn.
No, I'm saying
it requires so much.
This is what I'm saying. If people cared about themselves more, they would watch who they let in their life.
But I don't think,
by asking more questions. How are you to your family? You know how many conversations you got to have before you start talking about what's your relationship with your cousin, or who'd you grow up with. So it's like,
I didn't realize that relationships with your aunts and uncles and grandparents were really important.
No, I'm talking about as far as how were they raised. Yeah. Like you can see, I don't have relationships with
I just thought about mothers and fathers.
No, I'm saying like just how I view family. You can see I was an isolated like entity, and I'm like, if you like, well, I guess that's the reason why I said it, because you know, in my head, I just viewed it differently. So yeah,
I know. I think that probably that's the biggest thing that I would ever want to say to somebody is, and I think that we've had a number of conversations where we've said this, is asking those questions. You need to be around long enough to ask the questions, and not even just ask, because I may perceive it differently than when you observe it.
Correct.
So I think that this is normal and this is regular, and you're looking like this is dysfunctional as a mug. You know what I'm saying? So or you wouldn't want to be a part of that. Like, I wouldn't want to be a part of a family that makes you feel like, you know what I'm saying?
No, I'm just saying,
So-
like, if my friends started to view their life like that, and I felt like they're more intentional with who they're going to end up with, at least when they got it, it looked somewhat closer versus a wild card. Like, we're going to just gamble and hopefully that they're. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if we can get everybody to just be more intentional, I think it would be less BS that's going on.
Yeah. I don't know. I also feel like, depending on our age and our exposure, what we think we want and what we think we're putting out is different than actually what it is. Like, you think you want this relationship, you're intentional about it. This is the person that's going to help me get there. You know, this works. And then you get in it and you're like, this isn't really what I value. This isn't really what I feel like I want in a partner. It all look good on paper. It look good for the time being, but long term, not so much. So I agree. I think people should be more intentional. But I guess it's really, you really have to know yourself by yourself. And I mean that by saying, know all of the hangups. Like, when I was talking to my friend and she was saying, you know, I really need to think about, do I want to bring a child or someone into this when I'm looking at it? I think that people should do that. They should be looking at their life and be like, now look, am I bringing someone in? What am I bringing someone into? What am I in?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we don't always, and sometimes we got rose-colored glasses when we're looking at something and it looks really crazy to everybody else, and we'll be like, this is life. What you talking about?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a gamble. You just be intentional with knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And then, then with a partner.
If you're intentional with yourself, you'll attract the right people around you.
Maybe so. I think so.
I have, I was just talking to a young man the other day. He said, he always got women problems because, he's just got that many women. I was like, well, I mean, it seemed like there are a bunch of distractions because you're allowing everybody to have a piece of your time. You don't value yourself. If he's spreading himself thin with everybody, like, he's going to have those problems. But if he reduce it, like the number of people that can, he wouldn't have so many problems. But as a man, he's thinking like, this is the life he's supposed to live. And I'm like, you don't have to live that way.
Yeah.
But if you look around you and you see somebody like, how can I get like that? What did they do to get like that? Like, because my friends that are single, I look at them like, I'm sad because I want them to experience what I have right now, because I didn't know how to articulate it when we were younger, so I just said I didn't know how to get there. So I didn't want to be married. I didn't want to have kids. It's so easy to just say that, and then you can be like, that's the decision I'm going to take. And then when you get over here and you're like, wow, I can't believe I almost tried to stay away from that because of what I was taught. So it's like, what can we say to, like, just get them to, like, you know what? Let's go see what this look like. And shoot, 50% chance I'm going to do good because that's what the numbers say. But I'm going to do everything I can to make sure. So it's like I'm more intentional about going to get my own happiness. Because if we let our childhood trauma prevent us from being great, we'll never be able to know what happiness truly is.
But you know what else? I agree. But I do believe that some people, they have a lot of trauma that it's going to take more than just your will to get out. Like, you need, like, help to find your way out. You know what I'm saying? It's not just something that you can, this isn't going to hold me back.
No. I'm saying
there's healing that has to happen.
For sure. But I'm just saying you should know what the people that can protect you from that or help you with that. You don't give everybody a chance to help you with that. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if they're handsome, fine, they got money, but if they got something over there that's going to trigger you, you're wasting your time with them. So get to know these people before you like what they do right now, because there's some stuff that you haven't seen yet that they gave you the signs before, but you decided, no, I'm going to be the one to not have to go through that, and then you wasted your time. So just be intentional.
You know what I wonder, even in all of this talk and what we hope that we are, do we ever sit there and think what kind of trauma we might be inflicting on our kids?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I think about that all the time, because in my head, I feel like they're on the plus side of it, because I was so low. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like they in Dallas are going to be like those people, like your co-worker said, you know, I had one person I dated that didn't have this trauma. Yeah. They're going to be the ones that didn't have that trauma.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if my mom ever said my children have childhood trauma. And I know that she did all she could to make it where we didn't feel anything. Like, and when I mean that, it's like my mom, if there was a punch that was going to be taken, my mom was going to take that hit so that none of us had to feel it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like my older brother is much like that. When it came to my dad was not, my biological father was not a father. He was there, but he didn't know how to be a dad. He had never seen it done correctly, and he couldn't do it. And there were a lot of things that my older brother shielded me and my younger brother from, that he would take the hit before he would let us take it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very appreciative of him right now, thinking about that. But and my mom, but I guess when she's thinking, she's doing all she can so that we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to know. We don't have to take on that sadness or that hurt or whatever. As we're parents and we're moving through the world, not just you and I, but whoever is listening, are we thinking about how are our kids experiencing? How are they perceiving their family and their life? Yeah, our kids aren't going to go through what we did. So then we're like, okay, they ain't getting that trauma. But according to them and the life they've had, what do they perceive as something that they're going to have to carry with them and heal from or make sense of?
But I think that's the reason why I enjoy the parenting aspect, because I feel like you and I can purposefully go try to give them some of this.
Yeah.
Or like if we say, just like when we were talking about the social aspect, we want to give them, some benefits like that we have somehow. You're like, golly, I can't believe we're talking about this. Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, whatever trauma it could possibly be, I mean, it's something that we could ask. That's the reason why I guess I love the podcast so much, because people can be like, hey, I kind of relate to them. That maybe, and then write a comment where we can like, hey, look at this, So that's definitely that's a purposeful thing though. That's why like if these folks that are single could narrow the market down to what would make them the best, they would have better eyes. They would like, golly, I can't believe I was down on the third floor. You know what I'm saying? It was like, how'd he get all the way up here on the 8th floor? He tricked everybody, including me. I done wasted my time, just like me. I tricked you. It's like, dang, how did John get all the way? Like, if you just think about where I came from, like, I would have never dated you.
If I'd asked the questions I'm telling everybody else to ask, I'd have been like, we're going to leave that one alone.
He was like, if you have my makeup and then, you like, if I looked, I don't know, like if I had a limp, she wouldn't have paid me no attention. I had to have a regular walk. And I had to be halfway attractive for her to be like, you know what, let's see what we can do with him. But I'm appreciative of that. Before we get out of here, do you have anyone you want to give a shout out to?
This is crazy that, I'm on a roll of not really having someone to give a shout out to. But, yeah.
Well, I want to just give a shout out to all the listeners. That's, I'm always... for sure. I always give y'all a shout out. Thanks for all the support. Make today better than yesterday, and don't worry about anything you can't control.
GATA, get after that action. That action will get after you.
Boom. Be great on purpose.